Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we are really digging into a mix of topics, things that seem separate, but you'll see how they connect.
hmm
Our goal, as always, is to give you that shortcut to feeling well-informed, pull out those key insights, those aha moments,
Right.
no information overload, just the important stuff. So let's unpack this. We've got sources touching on everything from surprising prosecutor fails
Yeah, that was interesting.
to forgotten figures in history, those really tough debates after national tragedies, and even, the big chess game of global trade.
It's quite a range, but what's fascinating here is seeing the threads, how a legal quirk might echo in geopolitics or how history informs current debates. Synthesizing it gives you that richer picture.
Absolutely. So let's start with something almost comical, if you know that old legal saying.
The ham sandwich.
Exactly. The one that says a prosecutor can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich if they want to.
Yeah.
It just shows how low the bar usually is for an indictment, right? That formal accusation stage.
That's the idea. The grand jury standard is just probable cause. Did a crime probably happen? The prosecutor presents their side. No defense arguments, just need a simple majority vote. It's designed to be a fairly low hurdle.
Yeah, not a high bar at all.
So failing repeatedly,
Yeah.
that's almost unheard of. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really makes you question what's going on. Is it competence? Is it juror trust? It shouldn't be this hard.
And that brings us to Washington, D.C. and Prosecutor Pirro's office. Our sources mentioned they'd already struck out 3 times before on getting a felony assault indictment in another case, had to reduce the charge eventually.
3 no true bills, as they call it. Yeah.
But then it happened again, and this time it literally involved, well, a sandwich.
A Subway cold cut combo, actually. Ham, salami, bologna.
Mhm.
This guy, Sean Charles Dunn, apparently threw it at a Customs and Border Protection officer back on August 10th in D.C.
Wow, and the consequences for Dunn were serious, right?
Yeah.
Lost his DOJ job, arrested, jailed.
Yeah, definitely not minor. But then Pirro's office went for a felony assault indictment for the sandwich throwing. And the grand jury said no. Again.
Unbelievable.
This time they seemed to learn, though. After that first refusal, that first no true bill, they quickly reduced it to a misdemeanor assault charge.
It's such a strange story. But okay, beyond the flying lunch meat, what does this tell us?
Well, I think it points to something fundamental about trust in the system.
Mm.
Grand juries usually work on the assumption that the prosecutor is competent, presenting things fairly.
Right.
When that trust breaks down, maybe jurors think the prosecutor is overreaching or, politically motivated. Then you get these weird outcomes. The sources hint this could be part of a pattern for certain Trump prosecutors, maybe a long line of defeats we didn't used to see.
Interesting.
And then there's the public reaction, Dunn becoming a sort of folk hero, these Banksy-style images popping up. That suggests a kind of vocal growing resistance. And that kind of energy often translates into votes, doesn't it?
It certainly does. So yeah, a weird sandwich incident ends up being this lens on the legal process, public mood, political currents. Fascinating stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking of perception and maybe misperception, let's shift gears and dive into some American history. There's been this push, for a while now to tell a broader story, move past just the feel-good white man history, as some sources put it.
Right. And attempts to diversify aren't new. They go back a long way. But sometimes those early efforts weren't great. You mentioned Molly Pitcher earlier.
Yeah, the Revolutionary War figure.
Well, it turns out Molly Pitcher wasn't one person. It was more of a nickname for lots of women helping out. Once historians figured that out, she kind of faded from the textbooks.
Huh. And Betsy Ross? Sewing the flag?
Yeah, lovely story. But the sources are pretty clear. It's entirely unsupported by evidence. The story only popped up like 100 years after she died.
Okay, so if they're not the full picture, who should we be looking at? Our sources highlighted someone really incredible, but maybe overlooked. Anne Smith Franklin.
Ah, yes. Benjamin Franklin's sister-in-law.
That's the one. Married to his older brother, James. Ben actually apprenticed under James in Boston before, he took off for Philadelphia and became Benjamin Franklin.
And James.
Yeah.
Oh, well, James was apparently quite a character. Good printer, sure, but also very outspoken. The sources describe him as leaning into conspiratorial thinking, even anti-vax, for his time, called smallpox inoculation the work of Satan.
Okay.
Yeah. His strong opinions got him jailed in Boston, which is why he and Anne moved to Rhode Island. And there, they set up the state's first printing press and publishing business.
And Anne wasn't just standing by. She was involved, right?
Deeply involved. Sales, editing, and think about typesetting back then. Tiny individual-led letters.
Hmm.
Delicate work, often done by women or kids with smaller hands.
Right.
When they printed things like a perpetual almanac, Anne certainly did the work herself, sources say, all while managing a household without any modern conveniences.
That's incredible. But what happened after James died?
That's where it gets really interesting. James died in 1735. Anne's left with hardly any money, 4 kids, all under 10.
Oh, wow.
But she takes over the business, lands the contract for all official printing for the Rhode Island legislature, starts publishing American versions of popular English novels like Fair Rosamond, revised the Rhode Island Almanac.
So she's a real entrepreneur.
Absolutely. She becomes the first woman newspaper publisher in American history with the Newport Mercury, and that paper still publishes today, believe it or not. Definitely the first woman newspaper editor.
That's amazing.
And the Newport Mercury under her leadership. It was progressive. It was the first paper in America to publish poetry by Phyllis Wheatley, a black woman.
What a legacy. How did her story end?
Well, she ran the shop for nearly 15 years, then partnered with her son, James Jr. They billed themselves as James and Anne Franklin. She stepped back a bit, but when James Jr. died in 1762, Anne, nearly 68, went back to working full-time.
Just kept going.
Yep. Her obituary from April 1763 praises her fine constitution, great integrity, calls her a faithful friend, and a compassionate benefactor to the poor. But it also has this really poignant detail. She outlived all her children.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And her printing press, even that has a story. British soldiers targeted it during the Revolution. It got disassembled, buried for safety, then dug up after the war and put back into service. A real symbol of resilience. It's in the Rhode Island Historical Society now.
Just incredible. Anne Smith Franklin.
Her story just hammers home that history isn't simple. It's this vast and complicated tapestry, way more complex than the old, narrow narratives allowed. So many stories waiting to be told.
Definitely. Well, from uncovering hidden histories to confronting debates that feel all too familiar. Let's shift now. It's a tough topic, but an important one.
Okay.
Another school shooting this week. Minneapolis. A Catholic school. 2 10-year-olds killed, 18 injured. Shotgun. Just awful. And the response is sadly predictable.
Yeah, the script, as the sources described it, played out again. From the left, you basically heard 2 things. Demands for action on gun violence and a rejection of, quote, empty thoughts and prayers.
And on the right, some responses felt pretty tone-deaf, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. You had the religious framing, like former Congressman Trey Gowdy saying, the only comfort is knowing the kids are with Jesus.
Which, felt like proselytizing, especially since the kids were apparently killed during prayer time at a religious school. Kind of missed the mark there.
Right. And then there were the deflection arguments, the focus on mental illness, not guns. Scott Jennings on CNN blamed it on the shooter's mental illness being encouraged instead of treated. The sources called that absolutely vile.
Yeah, that's rough.
HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. also jumped on the mental illness train, speculating about antidepressants, SSRIs maybe being a trigger. What's fascinating here is the pushback. Senator Tina Smith, the Democrat from Minnesota, she went on X, Twitter, and just let loose, said something like, dare you to tell our grieving community guns don't kill kids, antidepressants do. Just shut up. Stop peddling bullshit. You should be fired. Pretty direct.
Wow. Strong words. And Gowdy managed to get heat from his own side, too.
Yeah, besides the with Jesus comment, he also said something like, we're going to have a conversation of freedom versus protecting children. It's always a young white male.
Yeah.
That last part got huge backlash from right-wing commentators demanding Fox fire him.
So, just a mess all around. Where does this leave things?
Well, the political reality, as the sources see it, is the U.S. isn't going gun-free. The left pushes for more restrictions. Who buys, how easily, what types. The pro-gun side sees any limit as the beginning of the end, fueled by very motivated single-issue voters.
Right. Stalemate.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Which led our sources to float this, completely radical hypothetical.
Oh.
Yeah, what if Democrats got power, expanded the Supreme Court to 15 justices, found a judge to rule the Second Amendment only applies to 1789-style muskets, and got the new court to uphold it?
Whoa.
Yeah. They frame it as the only route we can even conceive of to maybe stop the shootings. It just shows how deep the divide is, how desperate the search for any kind of systemic change feels.
Definitely highlights the deadlock. Okay, let's pivot one more time. To the global stage now. Economics, geopolitics, the Trump administration's trade wars.
Right. And a key piece here is something called the de minimis exemption.
Okay, what's that?
Basically, it lets you, as a U.S. consumer, import up to $800 worth of goods per day without paying tariffs or fees. It's actually been around for ages, since 1938. The limit's gone up over time. The $800 level was set in 2016 with huge bipartisan support.
And the point is?
Just to avoid the hassle and cost of collecting tiny amounts of money on small packages, the paperwork would cost more than the tariff itself.
Makes sense. But the Trump administration sees it differently.
Yeah, they're calling it a de minimis loophole. Peter Navarro, he was the president's senior counselor for trade, justified getting rid of it by executive order, claimed it was a national emergency.
A national emergency? Why?
Well, his reasons were diverse. Stopping narcotics coming in, raising maybe $10 billion in tariff money, creating U.S. jobs, fighting intellectual property theft.
Does that logic hold up?
Well, this raises an important question. Do those claims really pass the smell test? The sources argue, mostly no. The drug thing, cartels aren't exactly declaring their shipments. Tariffs won't stop them.
Right.
And the jobs versus revenue thing, it's contradictory. A tariff can't be massively revenue-generating AD protectionist at the same time. If it protects jobs, people buy American, imports drop, and you don't get the tariff money. If you get the money, it means people are still importing.
I see. So what are the actual consequences of ending this exemption?
Immediate disruption.
Yeah.
Starting tomorrow, apparently. There's just no system ready to handle tariffs on millions of small personal packages. And the impact is already showing. Postal services in over 10 major countries, Australia, France, Germany, Japan, the UK. Others have announced they're just stopping shipments to the U.S.
Stopping them altogether? Wow.
Yeah. Which could really mess up the upcoming Christmas shopping season. The sources made this interesting comparison to FDR trying to move Thanksgiving earlier for Thanksgiving to boost shopping. It was a political disaster. He had to walk back fast. Messing with holiday commerce. Politically risky.
Definitely something to watch. Okay, so that's one part of the trade wars. What about the bigger picture? Specifically, China and Xi Jinping.
Yeah. The sources describe Xi as Trump's biggest and most dangerous adversary. And there are, 4 main reasons why.
Okay.
1, just the sheer volume of trade between the U.S. and China. 2, China holds massive amounts of U.S. currency reserves. 3, China has way more options for other trade partners than the U.S. might. And 4, Xi himself is seen as a very skilled political operator.
So how is Xi playing this?
Well, look at this signal China's sending. This Wednesday, they're having a huge 80th anniversary celebration of their WWII victory over Japan. Big military parade.
Trump loves parades. Was he invited?
Nope. Explicitly not invited. But guess who is invited and attending? Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un.
Ooh, okay. That sends a message.
A couple of messages, really. The parade itself says don't mess with China. But having Putin and Kim there, while excluding Trump, that says, I can play this geopolitical game better than you, Donald. And also, hey, you're not our only option for trade and partnerships.
Especially since Trump's talks with both Putin and Kim have stalled.
Exactly. It reinforces that analogy the sources used. Xi is playing 4D chess while Trump is playing Candyland.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground today.
Right.
From sandwich indictments to Anne Franklin's printing press to global chess moves. It really shows how connecting these different pieces gives you that fuller picture. Hopefully you feel, really well informed after this dive.
And maybe it leaves you with a final thought. This raises an important question. Think about the power of individual actions we discussed. A thrown sandwich, a buried printing press, even a pointed non-invitation to a parade. How do these small things sometimes reflect or even help shape these much bigger historical currents and political shifts? It makes you think about how easily the narratives we accept, politically or historically, can be challenged just by looking a little closer, doesn't it?